Thank you so much for joining me. First of all, you've announced a bond programme of £1.5 billion over the next parliamentary term. How confident are you in the timing of this for 2026, 2027 with the first issuance? And to what extent does it be contingent on the outcome of the Scottish Parliament election?
Obviously, we've got an election in front of us in May, and one of my policy priorities will be to take forward a bond programme in the next parliamentary term up to a value of £1.5 billion. And I think that's a strong proposition, given the strength of the credit ratings that were achieved just last week from Moody's and Standard & Poor's. And both of these ratings are the best ratings that Scotland could have achieved within the United Kingdom. And they're a reflection of the strength and diversity of the Scottish economy, the strength of our management of the public finances, and the strength of the institutional framework. So I think the foundations are really good for undertaking a bond programme, but obviously we have to undertake adequate market consultation and dialogue to take that forward.
The rating that you've got on these Scottish bonds by Moody's, by S&P, that's a strong endorsement here. But at the same time, Moody's has flagged the possibility that a downgrade could come in the event of independence. They've cited institutional uncertainty. So how do you reconcile your government's long-term ambitions, which may include independence, with a strategy that depends on stable ratings?
There's always going to be factors that will be assessed by ratings agencies about change and developments in any economy, and Scotland will be no different to any other country around the world. What gives me enormous heart is the fact that some of the characteristics and the arguments put forward to give us such strong credit ratings emphasise the strength of our financial management in Scotland, prudent policies that have been taken forward, and then also the strength of the institutions that we've created to anchor the approaches that we take forward on financial management. And fundamentally, of course, the strength of the Scottish economy is an enormous advantage. So we have to be conscious of the fact that there will be external factors that may affect these ratings. There will be variations that take place, and that affects any other country. But what we've got to contribute is strong and stable financial management and a strong institutional base. And that, to me, will be excellent foundations for a bond programme in the next parliamentary term.
So then to what extent is this bond issuance a step towards greater financial autonomy? And is it part of a broader push for more fiscal powers or even independence?
We've taken forward a range of measures which have developed the powers of the Scottish Parliament over many years. So we've been able to take forward variations in the tax and social security systems. We've been able to take forward investment programmes. Scotland has been, for the last 10 years, the most attractive part of the United Kingdom for foreign direct investment other than London and the South East, which is a tremendous commendation of our investment attractiveness. So what this bond programme represents is an initiative to strengthen Scotland's presence on the international markets, to make Scotland a more attractive destination for investment, but also to demonstrate that we can take decisions that will be in line with the needs and the perspectives of the Scottish Capital Investment Programme. And a bond issuing is a much more flexible instrument for Scotland, and it helps us to deliver investment that will suit the strengthening of our infrastructure and our capital programmes. So it helps us to use further powers, it helps us to attract more investment, it helps us to contribute to strengthening the Scottish economy in the years to come.
And just to follow on from that, do you think, though, that there will be another push for independence?
I've made clear that at the 2026 election, I want us to make progress on the issue of Scottish independence. I want us to be in a position for the people of Scotland to decide their own constitutional future. And we have a parliamentary majority just now that wants Scotland to be an independent country. And I want to make sure after the election in May of next year, we have a majority of SNP MSPs that can take that agenda forward. And of course, we will take that forward consistent with our approach to strong financial management, to strong institutional frameworks, and to the strength and to continue to strengthen the Scottish economy. And that will be secure foundations for an independent country.
And we talked about the Scottish bond ratings matching that of the UK. So what is your pitch then to international investors to choose Scottish bonds over sovereign or sub-sovereign instruments?
What I would say to investors is that Scotland is an attractive and a dynamic economy, that we have a long-term commitment to infrastructure development, and we've demonstrated that over a number of years. Indeed, that is what has led to such a strong rating being achieved from Moody's and Standard & Poor's. And what I would indicate to investors is that these ratings represent a very strong reflection of Scotland's economy, the characteristics of our economy, and the desire and the outlook of Scotland to be an attractive country for investment. And I think that's a powerful message to take to the international markets.
Now, Minister, I've got to ask you about the big event that we have coming up in the UK, the autumn budget, and I wanted to get your thoughts on what your top asks are from the Chancellor.
What I'd like to see coming from the budget is measures to address the cost of living challenges that are faced by members of the public, and I want to see investment in our public services. We've had years and years of austerity which have undermined growth in our economy, and we need to really fuel growth, and that will come about by investment in our public services and by supporting people through the cost of living challenges, and that's got to be the central priorities of the Chancellor's budget.
And how do you feel that the UK government have performed so far? Are you concerned about spending cuts in the autumn budget? And what's your overall thoughts on Labour?
I think the United Kingdom Labour government has taken some, frankly, inexplicable decisions. Like, I could not believe how a government that believes in growth in the economy took the decision to increase employers' national insurance contributions last year. And what we can now see is that's having an effect on unemployment across the United Kingdom, and it's also depressing growth. So the UK government has got to take better decisions than they've taken to date. They've got to invest in supporting people through the cost of living challenges and make sure that we've got investment in our public services to fuel growth, because it's only through growth that we will be able to improve living standards, and that's what people in this country are crying out for.
And speaking of growth, if you look at Scotland, it's been lagging the UK average when you look at growth figures. What is your plan there to close that gap?
What we do in Scotland is we support a whole range of measures to boost business startup and scale up within Scotland. So our startup programmes have become immensely successful, and Scotland is now performing extremely well against other countries in relation to startups, and particularly tech startups. We've just invested in a tech scaler programme which is designed to ensure that companies that originate in Scotland are able to grow and develop in Scotland. And as a consequence of that, we have a formidable programme of investment in the tech sector. So we focus on boosting and supporting economic growth. As I indicated earlier, Scotland is an attractive country for international investment for the last 10 years. We've been the most successful part of the United Kingdom in attracting foreign direct investment other than London and the South East. And that's a really strong foundation for our economic strategy in Scotland.
But are you concerned about investment confidence, which some surveys are showing that remains pretty weak?
I think we've got to recognise that there is a whole range of destinations that investment activity can reach within the international economy, and countries have got to be attractive. And we've spent a lot of time making sure that Scotland is an attractive place for investment. We've been successful in foreign direct investment. We've been successful in startups, successful in scale-ups, and I want to make sure that with the assistance of really powerful credit ratings, we're able to be attractive to international financial markets and bring that investment capital into Scotland. And that is a secure foundation for the growth agenda that we're trying to pursue.
And have you had any meaningful conversations with the Treasury ahead of the budget, and do you feel like they're listening to Scotland's concerns?
We set out our perspective to the Treasury, and we want the Treasury to pay heed and to take heed of the issues that we're raising. The Treasury will not share with us their prior thinking about the budget, and we'll see what is said next Wednesday. But fundamentally, we make an appeal for a budget that will invest in growth, invest in the public services of our country, and provide support to people wrestling with the cost of living challenges. And that's the issues that we think the Treasury have got to address.
And do you think there's an increasing risk of divergence when it comes to economic policy in Scotland and the rest of the UK, and any conflicting paths that you have?
I want to make sure that the Scottish economy is successful. And if that requires us to take different decisions to make that happen, then that's what devolution is all about. It's about giving people in Scotland the ability to take a different course so that we can be successful in developing and strengthening our own economy and our own priorities. And that's the focus of the approach taken by the Scottish Government. The credit ratings agencies have recognised and acknowledged the strength of our financial management, the steps that we're able to take to strengthen our economy, and the commitments that we've made and the commitments we've delivered on the establishment of the institutional framework of economic management in Scotland. And these are really strong foundations upon which to build the economic strategy of Scotland.
And given Scotland has some limited borrowing powers under the current fiscal framework, does this bond issuance actually highlight the need for more expanded powers?
Well, I obviously want Scotland to have a more extensive range of powers, and I want us to be in a position to take ever more of the decisions that matter to the people of Scotland here in Scotland. So that is a priority for me as I take forward our agenda. But what I also want to make sure is that we're using every lever available to us to the maximum to ensure that we are successful in taking forward an agenda that's about building and boosting the Scottish economy, because that's going to be good news for the people of our country.
And Minister, before I let you go, I've got to ask you about the football on Tuesday. Scotland is now going to the World Cup. So how did you celebrate?
Well, I was at the game, and I have never, frankly, been at a more euphoric occasion in my life. It was a tremendous game of football, as always with Scotland. There was a bit of ebb and flow, moments of good news and moments of not so good news. But the finale in extra time was just absolutely extraordinary. And I think in one game, Scotland delivered probably three of the finest goals Scotland has ever scored in her footballing history. And it was just an evening of utterly unbridled joy in Scotland. And we're all still beaming. We're all still over the moon about it. And there's a great deal of joyfulness around in Scotland.